I think we're on the air, but I don't know with YouTube these days if we really are. I assume so. I assume this is USFanTV, but maybe you can't see us. I don't know.
Which would kind of be US Fan TV at this point. I'm just going to throw it out there.
I should tell you that I am Pat, and stand by. I have it queued up. Just stand by. Mm-hmm.
Was ist das? That I was born.
He is Chris.
I am Chris.
And from
do you now have a soccer dad, minivan soccer pod?
We've made him enough songs. I don't know if we could play them on the air.
We can't.
Probably couldn't have played that on the air, but yeah.
I'm not even sure at this point I know how to even do any of that. That's kind of the sad part. It has been a while. And I am not Chris, and I am not Pat. I am TJ.
From the Minivan Dad Soccer Pod. And from the United States military. And from Glen Ellen. So there was a U.S. game. We're going to talk about, we normally talk about the men. We're not excited about that. We're going to talk about that later in the show. We're going to talk about the U20s. That was okay. It wasn't as bad as the full men's national team, but we have to talk about
promising happened there.
We have to talk about this this 13-0 win.
Yeah, there's a World Cup you might have heard of.
It's before this game. Every game I watch was 0-0. It seemed, or at least the part of it I watched was scoreless. Like, I hadn't seen an actual goal in this Women's World Cup scored with my own eyes. Because every time I would hear about, hey, you just see Norway and Nigeria. I didn't see that game. You know what I saw? I saw a bunch of no goals. And then I'm thinking, I had this like bad feeling about the women going into the game. I'm like, you know what? I know they should beat this team, but if Argentina can do great things against Japan and hold them, you can't underestimate anybody, but no, that was
you can excuse me, you cannot underestimate.
I felt bad. And I say that knowing that they did the right thing by scoring as many goals as they possibly could, because that is what the format demands you do. You have to, the goal differential is a important thing, and it'll be the first tiebreaker. And I assume we go into the final game against Sweden, and both of us are going to be on 6 points. So we may need that if we draw that game. And that said, I felt bad. And Chris, I know you have some feelings, particularly not with the running up of the score, but with the celebrations that we were doing.
Exactly. My problem was not the running up. Like, I disagreed with I can't remember who was the woman calling the game with JP.
She's really good, and I can't think of her name right now.
Anyway, she made a statement about like
Allie Wagner, right?
Yeah. How they were showing Thailand respect by continuing to score, and I was like, I won't go that far, but I'll allow it, especially in these circumstances. You're at a World Cup. It is your opening game. You need to score as many goals as possible because who knows what the hell might happen tomorrow. You want the points. So
knocking it around is almost more disrespectl than
I like in an opening
playing
game.
keep away.
If this was the third game, I'd be like, okay, that wasn't necessary. But in an opening game, yeah, of course, keep scoring. That's what you need to do. That's what, that's the whole point. My real problem though was when you're up 7 or 8-0, and you keep like doing these full team celebrations or these elaborate dances and things afterwards. That's a dick move. Like, if I was surprised that no one was calling them out on it, because I do feel like if this was, I don't know, a different team, like if this wasn't the women playing, somebody would have said, yeah, this is starting to look really nasty, like unsportsmanlike, and maybe they need to call it off. Frankly, I think if this is a men's game, somebody would have like tried to break somebody's leg, and I kind of would have said, you kind of earned that one.
Yeah,
I really thought that was just
now. You know what? If it's your first World Cup goal, like Malpew or somebody like that, I think I kind of let it slide.
Fine.
But like,
yeah. Alex Morgan like counting out her like 1, 2, 3, 4. Like I don't even remember what the fifth one was anymore. But I do remember she was like counting them out. Like, come on, you're standing around like in the middle of the Thai team, and here you are. Like, there's no need for this. Like, does Messi do that when he scores?
No, you got to act like you've been there. The old Walter Payton.
Like you've been there. You go line up again and you go finish the game. Like that I had a real problem with. But anyway, I don't feel like in this case we should start off with like bad stuff because very cool.
It's nitpicking when
I know. And it's not fair. Like they kicked the shit out of Thailand. Great start to the tournament. There are things that like I can nitpick there, and I do think for as much as like people are all like gung ho for them, there are things that they look better than perhaps they should right now. In the same way that you could say the men look worse than maybe they should right now, if that's possible, because of the competition they played. Thailand didn't deserve to be in the World Cup. It's pathetic.
I am interested to see what that team does in the remaining games it has, because
how many goals they get scored against them.
Yeah, just to see what.
I mean,
I need some kind of bar. I want to see them play in some kind of gauge for where we're at.
Their goalkeeping was atrocious, and come on, I almost never blame the goalie. That was atrocious goalkeeping. She got beat at the near post multiple times. Alex Morgan's fifth goal was basically shot straight at her, and she missed it.
So Chris,
goals were pretty much straight at her. Their defense.
They were shooting from like the 6 though half the time. Yeah, like it's like, what do you?
Their defense was non-existent. I mean, they'd have 4 players in the box, but they'd all be 5 yards away from anyone who might either touch the ball or could receive a pass. To me, this is a hard game to judge. Like, will they win the World Cup? Look, hey, this was a statement game. That's awesome. But can you say, oh yeah, they're the team to beat?
I don't think we know that yet.
Yeah,
I think they're one of them.
Thailand was so bad.
Yeah,
Thailand was so bad. Like, they were so bad, you have trouble giving some credit to the U.S. there because, okay, the first 3 or 4 goals, great. The rest, you're kind of like, they weren't in this game. They didn't belong on that field.
So, Chris, what I need to know is first one is Rapinoe's celebration on the 9th goal. I thought was the one that was probably the most absurd.
That was the one that really kind of like, I think that was what it really got to be. Like the slide and then the kick thing. I was like, come on, you didn't need to do this.
I guess I couldn't say I saw it live because at halftime I'm like 3-0. Okay, it's done. I really didn't need to see. And I feel like I'm glad I didn't. I saw the Rapinoe one later. And then the other question is, Chris, what's the conspiracy? Where was the ref conspiring, especially in the first half? I need to know your referee conspiracy because we know you don't blame goalies. But as it has been pointed out in the chat box, you do blame the referees once or twice. So we need to know your conspiracy on this one.
I don't always blame the referees, and I don't always suggest that the referees are just trying to screw one team. In general, if I have a conspiracy theory, it's larger than that. But whatever. And that's me contributing to you guys and your bullshit about my conspiracy theories. So whatever.
Guys, if the Bruins happen to win Game 7,
we're not talking about that.
There's going to be some ref conspiracies, I'm sure. Fucking Gary Bettman.
Anyway. Yeah, look, the U.S. did a lot of things right. There are still a lot of things I saw that concern me.
What?
There were still a lot of like errant passes, a lot of lazy passes that were nowhere near the intended recipient, a lot of bad crosses, a lot of shooting that was a lot of first touch that was like I was calling it Jordan Morris-esque earlier, and I kind of stand by that. It's not terrible, but it's not the best it could be. And when they really have to face the best, when they have to face France or something in presumably 2.5 weeks or whatever it is, 3 weeks, presumably, of course, is that going to be enough? This is a great win, but it's kind of a win tempered by you were effectively playing a kids team.
It's bold, Cotton. The Anthony, by the way, I want that St. Louis is boring shirt.
But like that team did not belong on the field with.
It's accurate. Yeah, well, that's why I want to see this team play other teams. But I felt bad for the women on that team. But at the same time, if you're not going to care about women's sports and you're going to put a team out there, and this is what you're going to get, I do wonder if there's been talk about expanding the women's World Cup to 32. I think you're going to get a lot more of this. I do wonder if we would see some of this if the men's World Cup actually expanded to 48.
I don't think it'll be that bad, but I think I sent something out from the USFanTV handle today about this is why we don't want a 48-team World Cup. We don't want this kind of gulf in quality between two teams in the same tournament. I mean, we've seen some of that in the World Cup already, when Saudi Arabia was making it out of Africa and they were just shit compared to everyone else. There's some of that. I mean, hell, the U.S. has kind of been some of that in the past, but it's not been that extreme, as evidenced by the fact that there's never been a 13-0 win in a World Cup game, men's or women's. You don't want to see that kind of valley, because it's not entertaining to the fans. You're risking players getting hurt for any reason in a game that doesn't matter. The U.S. could have probably played with 9 women, and they probably still would have won that game 6-0.
Although I think it's Anthony has the best point of the night. When a strong team plays a weaker team, results like this happen. See Germany versus Brazil in the 2014 World Cup. I mean, it happens sometimes. There are nights like that. So,
yeah, I also agree with Kevin's comment. Why was there 3 minutes of extra time? I was wondering that too. Just blow the whistle. Just blow the whistle.
That's a good point. I didn't even consider that. That's a great point. Yeah, we've seen enough. We're going for 2 touchdowns. I mean, it's seriously so. I do also wonder if winning, and we don't really have any frame of reference for this, but does winning 13-0 in your opening game give you a false sense of confidence going into games that are more important? Or could you argue that keeping your foot on the gas the whole time actually makes you sharper?
I'm sure the way they would look at it is that it's going to keep them sharper. For the veterans, it probably does. They're not gonna think, oh yeah, this is all in the bag, we're fine. Megan Rapinoe is not gonna be like, let's just take a day off here. It's cool. Let's kick back.
No, obviously not. Yeah.
I could see some of the younger players. Does Mal Pugh stay as focused? Grant, maybe, because in her circumstances, this is new and she's trying to score at World Cups and things it's still huge in her eyes. So maybe there's a little bit there. But for some of the players who aren't maybe at those extremes, I could see where they're like, okay, what difference does it make?
Casey Short should still be there, even though we didn't need to play defense today. By the way, another point about the game, one of the things that amazed me the most is when they would get any kind of clearance, there was never anyone from Thailand anywhere near it. It was never a 50-50.
Yeah.
It was always just, okay, reset, go to the U.S. There was. I'm like, is there a striker roaming around out there that can the keeper get the ball anywhere near that person to, maybe they get a touch and open something up the other way? That never occurred. So obviously the U.S. is going to play some really, really good teams.
It really
down the road if they're going to do well.
It was like they were playing a kids team. It was so unfair that
what they said of the 24. I heard this in the first half. 22 play in whatever the League of Thailand is, and the other 2 play for U.S. colleges. And I don't think any of them were top flight schools necessarily either. But
no,
that's
the one played for Cal, right? The one that Alex Morgan was talking to her after the game.
Okay, maybe they were. So, but two played for U.S. universities, and the others were all with the Thai, whatever the League of Thailand is. It's not like you'd say like Jamaica or any of the teams in Central America, if we want to transition to that, where they all come out of USL, MLS, and so on. Other than a handful, but so there's that.
I didn't see either of the games. My son had games both times the U.S. Played recently, and I recorded them both with the intention of going back and watching, and then I immediately deleted them. I wanted no, and I do wonder, like I have to wonder now. Like I know it won't be that bad in the Gold Cup, but I don't have a whole lot of confidence. I wouldn't be stunned if we didn't make it out of the group. Something ridiculous that we would never have thought of before. Like it feels, and we're probably going to go win it now because it's just the way these things work. It's such a small sample size, but
we'll get to that shortly. But yeah, the games were horrendous. I mean that's kind of my point, I guess, with today's women's game. Is like the competition was so much lower than them that it's hard to truly read where they stand at this World Cup. With the men, they've been so bad in those games. It's hard to say what they'll be like in the Gold Cup. Once they get once more of the starters show up and are actually playing, does that mean that, I shouldn't say show up, they are there now, but once they're all playing together, will they get better? Of course.
Tyler Adams won't be there.
Do they need to be? Yeah.
Learn that now.
We have to talk about that one in a minute too. But anyway, so I don't know. Other thoughts on the women's game?
No, that's why I transitioned.
Did you? Well, I kind of did.
PJ started it. I went with it, and you're like, no, we'll get to that in a minute.
Like,
we got more.
Bring it back.
Let's talk more about this Baker's dozen here, and I feel like we're ready to move on.
We are absolutely ready to move on. Although Soccer Breitbart might have another conspiracy out there to throw at us.
There it is. I forgot about it. TJ was waiting for that one. Oh, he had it saved. He had it in
Jackson. We already talked about it. Oh yeah, no, keep celebrating. Yeah, you're right. It's no problem scoring the goals, but yeah, celebrating them past 7 or 8. Yeah, that was.
Completely agree. It made me feel uncomfortable as an American, like we were.
Yeah.
It didn't. That's not.
We don't need more reasons for them to we don't need a bigger target on our back.
That's kind of our thing, that's the stereotype about us, is that we're loud and we're not thoughtful, and that we boast and let's not add to it.
Kind of funny that they were the Trumpiest of our teams lately.
Still awesome job. Way to win 13-0, and I love it. And we're not nitpicking here. It was awesome, and I hope you win all the games that big. But felt a little uncomfortable.
We'll see what happens come Sunday versus, is it Chile? I think it's Chile.
Oh yeah, you're good. Robert mentioned your girl Hope was on TV, Chris.
that was still the first half. I did see that part.
Longing for you.
All right, and we're done.
Yeah, should probably end it there. All right, I think we're ready to talk about the Gold Cup. Soccer Breitbart.
Should we start with more decent news and go to the youth, or should we end there after we talk about?
Do you want to go in a? We can do that. Why don't you talk about the U20s?
Descend
and then we'll the spiral will continue.
The 20s are out after losing to Ecuador 2-1. Promising. I mean, they managed to beat France, which was a very big deal. A lot of good things from several players. Some odd players missing that perhaps we'll get to with the men's team discussion.
I think we can talk about that transitions between both of the teams. So
a certain Red Baron.
That's such a great name.
Yeah,
that's even better than Soccer Breitbart, by the way, as a nickname.
I was really hoping that Conrad de la Fuente was going to be awesome at this, because I don't know, the dude's playing at La Masia. Like, you want to see amazing things. That he wasn't. It did make me think, do we have other players who should be at La Masia? Like, do we have other guys who should be playing in like Barcelona's youth system? Was it just bad luck? Was there something going on that we don't know about, some little injury or whatever? Tim Weah, I thought, hopefully this plays him into a better spot since it sounds like he's going to be leaving PSG. That's certainly promising. Sebastian Soto, good goals. Considering he, you would think probably takes a back seat to Josh Sargent. Certainly took his opportunities when he was there, and that's one thing that when we get to the men's team in a moment, we have to talk about. They weren't taking their opportunities, and what do you say now when you've got what looks like these U20s just breathing down your neck? Paxton Pomykal, is that right? Is that how you say his last name? I don't even remember. Thanks for the assistance there, gentlemen.
We're just gonna trust you on this one. Go with
All
it.
right. Well,
that sounds right, Chris.
Anyway, he looked amazing in midfield for them. So maybe we have some guys coming up here who might actually make some waves, because I don't know what to think of the current crop of players we have outside of the ones that we talk about all the time.
Well, I can tell you, I can give you a simple solution. They stink out loud. At least right now they are.
I think that's kind of where we're headed.
Well, you asked that. You asked. I gave you the answer there.
Is he frozen?
I tend to agree. I mean, look, for the same reason that Michael Bradley has I think taken a lot of heat over the years, it's that there wasn't really any other good players to support him for so long. Like, he was kind of in that age group. He's sort of the only one to stand out. Do we have something similar following him? And is it basically Pulisic, McKennie, and then maybe all the way down to like Tyler Adams before we can look at we have quality players again? I mean, that's a huge age gap between like Bradley and Adams for two guys who are essentially playing similar positions or could play similar positions.
But Will Trapp is showing himself to be amazing.
That's a thing that I'm giving Berhalter the benefit of the doubt, but that's a thing that I really don't like, is the insistence on the crew players.
Well, I mean,
and that kind of ties into Josh Sargent, because Giassi was one of the people taking over him. So,
well, my point was going to be that Jermaine Jones must have pictures of Klinsmann at some point doing something that he kept getting in, even when he wasn't playing any position. I mean, you could go look at any one of these, and you sit there.
Jermaine could work on this team right now.
Well,
he can't play a position.
Yes, and this team, from the bit I have seen, there are such giant gaps between the different sections of the field that, yes, Jermaine could roam all of that and actually correct some of this. So
yeah, honestly, right now we could use him.
Let me ask a theoretical. Would Jermaine Jones make it through an entire game without punching somebody on his own team?
Maybe someone on his own team would deserve it.
I didn't say if it was deserved or not deserved. I was just asking if he'd do it.
If was under the presumption comment, I think they might be going down.
I was under the presumption it would be well earned if he was punching somebody out on his own team. But it's Jermaine. It's hard to say.
Anyway, I think with that we're into the men now.
I keep having to. By the way, I keep having to moderate our chat, and it's not like the weirdos that come in from the outside. It's like Leipzig and anonymity that I have to. I just approve anything you guys say, by the way, so you're good.
So first off, Jamaica 1-0.
That game was, everything I've read, that game wasn't as close as the scoreline from what I've.
I think Simon kind of felt insulted too that we played a youth squad against that
team. Yeah. I don't know if you can say the scoreline was good or bad to it. They scored off a really good shot. We played like shit. It was a crap, boring game. I mean, I was making jokes, I think, on the USFanTV handle about, I don't know if this game's putting me to sleep or if these terrible jerseys are just causing my eyes to go blind or something like that. I stand by that statement. Like, it was so painful to watch, and it was so boring because so little was happening. Whatever. Pretty much everyone there gets a 0. Then you move to Venezuela, 3-0. It's like I think I joked, like, at what point can we say this is worse than Cuba? That Jamaica game, the quality of the play looked worse than that night in Trinidad and Tobago. Venezuela looked even worse than that. And it's like, this isn't. How are these tune-ups for the Gold Cup? This is pathetic. And what are you going to do when you put Pulisic and McKennie in, and what we thought was going to be Tyler Adams, when the rest of these guys look like shit? I mean, terrible. Zach Steffen, we thought, had locked down the goalkeeper position, and here he is turning over balls that are just like effectively just handing goals to the other team. Like, he couldn't have been worse. I guess it would have been a little worse, but basically he couldn't have been worse if someone had given him a pass and he just what was that goal recently where, like, was that Sean Johnson who, like, just
yes, it was.
There's Sean Johnson
right into his own net.
Yeah.
Although the one from San Jose the other night might have topped that one. Just look that one up. I'll send you guys a link to that one. There's one that might be worse than Sean John's this year. So my question for you, though, Chris, is, in these tune-ups, were they trying to do things that tactically they typically don't do to see what works and what doesn't? And I'm asking, I get it, the results are garbage, but were they trying to do things that are outside their comfort zone to see if they have different styles?
Now would be the time to try.
Correct.
I do think, yes, that's true. And I'm okay with that. And I would say give Berhalter the benefit of the doubt, and let's see what happens with that. If he clearly wasn't looking to win now because he cut Josh Sargent. If it was just about, let's figure shit out for the future, then you keep the kids out there and you say, let's see what happens.
Yeah, unless there's a bit of information we don't have on the Josh Sargent thing. That would, like, something that hasn't been public. It makes no sense. And it's not like I don't understand that Josie Altidore is I know Josie's better than Josh Sargent right now still. And that won't be for very much longer, I'm hoping, but he is. But do you really think that if you go down that list of forwards, Josh couldn't have replaced one of those guys? And if you're planning on not having him with the full men's national team, why didn't you put him with the youth team?
Yeah.
Why wasn't this decision made? Did he really play himself out of a spot in the one game he played? I don't think so.
It
but
doesn't make any sense. I heard
it feels like we're missing something.
I heard somebody make a comment about how the nice thing is Soto got a chance with the U20s, because if Sargent had been with them, that probably doesn't happen.
Sure. Yeah.
So I guess in that regard, sure, good for him. But you still have to think, if there was any doubt that Sargent wasn't going to make this team, why bring him at all? Because if nothing else, it's better for you and him and the program at large if he's off playing somewhere than if he just gets nothing for the summer. Oh, great. So he goes and trains now in the off season. Hooray. He won't be hurt when the season starts, but realistically, you'd rather see him having the chance to do something special that gets him noticed more by the team and maybe gets another shot than just they know, hey, he worked out all summer.
Can they call him in after the opening round, under the presumption they make it out, which is not a guaranteed thing at this point, but can they still bring him back?
I thought you were limited in how you could change rosters after the opening rounds this year.
That's why I'm asking. I would presume you would know.
I think that's correct, Chris.
I don't know, but I think you're much more limited in terms of the players this year. It's not like it used to be, where basically you could just have a whole different team once you made it to the knockout stages. I think pretty much, I don't remember what the number is, because I don't think you're held to 23, but I think it's at least much more limited. So I think once you're done, you're done.
All right. Slapnuts Bozio saying no more roster changes, and Christian concurred with him. So, yep, no roster changes.
No, so that's it. This is what we're going with.
Oh no, we suck again.
Yeah, kind of. You consider, what does Will Trapp offer this team? I don't
Cover.
trash this guy. He works hard, but Michael Bradley's still a better option. And believe me, I've said plenty of times, for as much as I love Michael Bradley, I wish we were moving on.
And what if we let Tyler Adams back up Michael Bradley, or even start ahead of him in his more natural position on the field, and just
Instead
added
of
another
trying
defender?
That hybrid right back thing.
Yeah, the Philip Lahm. Yeah. Which, I was interested in it. I actually did. There was a great Athletic piece where Paul Tenorio talked to Schweinsteiger and had him kind of explain what they were trying to do, which was cool. But yeah, I don't know. Like we said, though, TJ and I said this earlier in the show. Now is the time to try stuff. Now is the time to.
Yeah.
You can make mistakes now. You can't make mistakes down the road here. So
my one thing is, and this is where perhaps it's unfair for Berhalter. There is such an air of negativity around this team, and I'm not sure U.S. Soccer gets it. I mean, when it's like when even like the three of us are, I don't know, lackadaisical in our approach to U.S. soccer, or
and that's
are disheartened in things. We're like the people they can't lose, or won't lose, and they're still losing us. What's happened to everyone else?
There's a huge difference between anger and apathy.
Yeah. And they are well into the apathy field.
Right now with you and I with Arsenal, we're still in the anger section of things, and that's okay because it still means we care. Apathy gets to the point where there's a US game on and I'm like, I'm gonna just play outside with my kids. Like it's I'm at that point now. And I don't really like that I'm there, but that's where I am because I just don't know that I care. And I will again. I'm positive I will again, but you're exactly right. If we're at that point, all of those people in 2014 that were showing up for watch parties in huge public squares and things like that, there's no chance. And furthermore, they're going to see the women, what they did today, and there were so many people saying they're making the page comments and stuff like that, which that's probably for a different show, but just the comparison, why can't the men do this? Well, part of it's that the level of competition is a lot higher across the board for the men, dramatically so. But yeah, the women are playing amazing as a team right now, and we look disjointed whoever we put out there. So it's and boring.
I mean, let's face it. At this point, with the way the weekend went for the men are Thailand right now, comparatively speaking, even with their own confederation. Yeah. I mean, so this first game in St. Paul, no, it's not Minneapolis, Fox, or anybody else. The game is in St. Paul.
Nobody cares.
I do. Having lived there, I care. Anybody who actually most of the Minnesota United fans
nobody even knows where Minnesota is.
There's that. There might be truth to that.
Give it back to Canada.
Says the guy who's going to be melting down tomorrow when the Bruins are hoisting the cup again.
Boston, to be fair, deserves it though. They haven't won.
No, they don't.
Cam Neely in a while.
Cam Neely should be punched in the face. I mean, there's that.
No. You got me to the point where I'm kind of cheering for St. Louis, even though I hate them because I don't want Boston to win anymore.
I've had a slow simmering argument with some Bruins fan on Twitter for a couple days because he's like calling all the Blues scumbags and like cheap shot artists or whatever. I look him up and it's like all he does is love Brad Marchand. It's like that dude does nothing but cheap shot people. Like that's his entire MO. You can't talk about like other players not. But anyway, no.
Boston, so we have we officially made officially made the transition to US Hockey TV?
No. We're still on the train wreck that is the men right now.
Do you guys think we're going to win the Gold Cup?
No. I'm more wondering if they get out of the group stage.
Right now, I'm not sure we get out of the group. We got to beat TNT,
which is dynamite.
A better team than this one couldn't do it. We got to beat Panama.
I hope that
this one couldn't do it.
If it's not us, and I really just hope it's not Mexico. I hope it's, and the Mexican team is pretty. I don't want to say weak because I don't know that they are, but the big names aren't there. So
they're. I mean, this was going to be a weak squad overall for them, but yeah, now they still have more players pulling out. So
I would like to see.
They're not going to have.
I'd like to see a country win it that it would matter to them. That
Jamaica?
would make the Gold Cup. Yeah, that's a good. That would make the Gold Cup cool for me. Is like if somebody took it home where it was actually a big deal and they cared, because as we've said for a long time, the Gold Cup doesn't feel like a big deal, and I don't know that I care. So
does Berhalter get fired if we
no
fail at the Gold Cup?
Should he?
No, absolutely not.
Yes, 100%. Yes.
No,
he won't. There's no way they will fire him, but unless I don't know what it would take.
Here's the thing: if they did, in what year would his replacement be determined?
That's true.
That's true.
Fail at what level too? Like knock it out of the group?
If we don't get out of the group, to me, you have to cut him regardless.
Maybe
whether he deserves it or not, you just have to.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I think if we fail, period, if we
losing the final,
if we fall short of the final, I kind of think you probably need to, just as a statement, if nothing else, because there is like we were saying before, there's an air of negativity around this team that you have to do something to counter. And while I fully agree there needs to be a system, and the system takes time and all these things, there's still a much broader problem that you guys didn't touch for more than a year.
And they don't, Chris, they don't, sorry, Breitbart, they don't really look interested in fixing it now. Last I checked, prices are still.
That's the problem. They don't give a shit.
Well, exactly. You think they're going to react because if the results aren't there and actually do something that might interest people? Of course not. You're going to keep screwing you over on your ticket costs. You're going to keep complaining as you always do, and then it's going to be some big conspiracy just to freeze you out of going to games. Not anybody else, just you, Chris.
He's right. He's not wrong.
But my prediction. So the first game's Guyana, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm going to make we got to make some prediction. I think I'm going to say 2-1 Guyana on a really, really bad penalty kick. This is after the Bruins win the cup, just to see if Chris's head actually explodes. That's my Breitbart conspiracy of the week.
Does anybody know, by the way, why they're not in CONMEBOL? Why they're in CONCACAF?
To piss you off.
They stand a better chance. They're in South America,
so
it doesn't piss me off. It just my map ADD kind of sets it on fire a little bit when it's sort of like calling Baku, Azerbaijan, Europe.
No, I mean,
if we're comparing it to something like that.
But doesn't Australia plays in the Asian Confederation?
Alex, that's a good point. He says because culturally Guyana is more Caribbean, which, yeah, I can see that. So,
Alex, go do your homework. And we have silence. Did we
Robert says, excuse me, Pat, but wasn't 2018 the year to try stuff? Yeah, but we wasted that year because we didn't really have a coach. So that entire year was wasted. So now this is the time, I guess, to try stuff. We're going to keep trying stuff up until we don't qualify for the next World Cup because it's not going to be expanded. So we don't have as good of a chance then. And then after that, we're the hosts. So in theory, we'll make that one.
I doubt it. They'll give the free spot to Canada, and then the US won't make it anyway, even at 48. And Canada's
got Alphonso Davies. I might like to see that. So,
well, there's that. That's true.
Imagine if the men didn't have Christian Pulisic for a moment. I don't mean from an on the field thing because he honestly hasn't played for us a whole lot in the last year and a half. I mean from a marketing standpoint. Imagine if they didn't have him. We'd have to
be bringing Donovan and Dempsey out of retirement.
Yeah, Jermaine.
DMB.
I don't believe DMB is retired.
That one may happen anyway. That's why I didn't name him the first time.
No, I honestly expect if the U.S. makes the next World Cup, I fully expect DMB to be on the roster. Just out of somebody forgot to tell him he couldn't play anymore, kind of like Milton in Office Space.
American Outlaw support might be unconditional because they are Federation lackeys. What?
Chris, but if you keep talking like that, they're not going to let us back in the section to see Lance Armstrong. I'm starting to get disappointed here.
I honestly don't know that I'm going to sit with them anymore. After the little disclaimer on the sign up that I talked about this like months ago, but the agreeing to not say anything disparaging either online or in public.
Because they're fascists.
Yeah, that one didn't go well with me.
Opinion of the organization. I gotta say, like, no, I enjoy.
They still do ticketing better than U.S. Soccer.
They absolutely do.
They don't screw it up.
Sitting in the section, I still like a lot of people that I know from it, but the organization as a whole, I am not a fan. I've been over plenty of times about how I love supporters sections. I hate supporters groups. They're a prime example in both of those statements.
So at this point, Chris, would you rather have Will Trapp or Freddie Adu? Thanks for the tip there, Leipzig. That I think that's a valid
Where is he
observation.
now? Is he still with Las Vegas? Where is he?
I thought he got cut or something. Or did
Ronaldo cut him?
Didn't get signed with Vegas. Isn't that right?
Yeah, he's not on their roster, which, considering Ronaldo might be manager, he should be manager of the coach of the year, call it whatever you want to call it. After, I think it was modeling after Phoenix Rising doing $1 beer night on Friday nights, he said Vegas should have $2 tequila nights. So every game this summer is going to be $2 tequila nights for Las Vegas Lights. So anybody who doesn't think Ronaldo has a positive influence, he does.
Anonymity says, Adu bagged my groceries in a Tampa Publix supermarket. I've been in a Publix many times when my parents are living in Florida in the winter. That's the place you go.
Good story.
Do you go to a Bell's? Do you go to Bell's shopping?
The Wawa?
Like the TJ Maxx of Florida? Or is it Beals? I never knew that for sure.
The Rossing?
Everybody's got Ross. We're talking about Florida specific things.
I thought Publix was like about it for that. All right, the answer to the Freddie Adu question is he is currently unsigned by everybody.
Stuff.
We've fallen off, haven't we?
We really have. Was it worth the comeback tonight?
It's Beals, but hard to do when doing meth.
That's
somebody
right.
asked a while ago about the schedule. I think the schedule will be when we can.
When we feel like it.
There are going to be games over the next few weeks, so there'll be actual stuff to talk about that will keep us a little more on schedule. We've the games the last couple games we just had some personal scheduling conflicts that mess things up, but with actual games that should then force us to have time in the evenings, we should have a little more regularity over the next month.
If Chris can get internet at the truck stop, it'll be easier for us to do these shows more consistently. This is USFanTV. We do shows. I used to say a number of different schedules, but we do shows occasionally on this YouTube channel. We have social media. Chris basically does those at this point: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. He thanks the troops and things like that on certain holidays. Speaking of the troops, thank you, TJ.
What? Thank you for being here for the next 3 weeks before I go back out on the road for a month.
Yeah, you're doing a lot of protecting and serving our nation.
Nah, planning for next year's training for us, which will be in Belize. So there's a few things to do. In
Belize?
Yep.
Wow, you best believe it.
Can you believe
it? You best believe it. Yep, I will be making my trip there in late August to go do a site visit.
I believe.
You know what? I'm pretty sure I'd take Belize in a close contest right now. Or I should say the British Honduras.
I was going to say Anonymity's queuing up a British Honduras joke right now, but you beat him to it. So, and it's YouTube. We're on YouTube, but you know that because you're watching this right now. From the Minivan Dad, TJ, Minivan Dad Soccer Pod, TJ, do you have any final words for us tonight?
Nah, let's get the hell out of here.
Chris,
you're done.
All right, go US. Let's score some more goals. You're done.
Thanks, everybody.